That's how far we are so far.
Veteran of the bike industry.
Nick's
very, very
a bicycle industry veteran. Yeah.
Yes, not a military veteran.
Also a veteran of this show because we're your hosts. Y'all might be wondering, who's this handsome guy next to me?
I'm the new guy.
Well, we're going to tell you, this is the most freshly minted former bike shop owner in America.
Pretty much.
I think so.
I think so.
Unless somebody closed their store yesterday or today,
Yeah, it's me.
you are the most freshly minted former bike shop owner in all of America. How does it make you feel?
Relieved. Super relieved. Second I handed my keys off, all the gray in my beard went away.
Went away?
It's all gone
Oh,
now.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
It's gone.
Friends, this is Zach. Zach and I have known each other since, I think, 2009?
9? That sounds about right.
I think 9.
Yeah.
So a good minute. And he and I have both owned bike shops. He owned his longer than I owned mine. So we're going to get into this because Zach closed his bike shop. Saturday, I suppose. Well, Friday would have been the official last day because it was the end of the month.
So we were closed for business the Sunday before, but I
Okay.
spent the last 5 days clearing everything out.
Mm-hmm.
So keys handed off on Saturday. So logistics, I don't know if that part of the logistics matters very much.
Sure. Well, so you just closed your shop after 13 years of operation in Denver, and I guess Inglewood is where you were over there technically, which
Yep.
is just on the edge of Denver. So we're going to get into talking about you and your bike shop and its time and its closure and your opinions on so many things. But I'm going to give you a minute just to introduce yourself. Tell all of these
All of
nice
the people.
There's many of them.
Hello, every
They're
nice
hard to
people
see.
out there.
In there.
I see you.
They're there.
I hope you see me too.
So, yeah, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your bike shop. You've got free reign here, buddy. I'm gonna just stare at you.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
I owned Velosoul Cyclery for about 13 years, a little bit over 13 years now. We spent 8 years in the Wash Park neighborhood, right behind the Whole Foods over there. And then right before COVID, we moved down to Inglewood to a larger space. My first space, we had about 930 square feet. My second space, we had 2,040 square feet. And before that, I spent about 7 years working in a few shops around town, which is where I met Jason. And
Shout out to Campus Cycles.
yeah, good gentleman over at Campus Cycles.
One of the long running establishments in Denver.
They do good stuff over there. They definitely do. And butts on bikes was my goal. I didn't care what type of bike you rode. I didn't care what type of butt you had. As long as your butt was on a bike, I was into it. And we did everything we could to help as many people as we could. As much as I love working on all the really high-end bikes, a lot of what we did was really just working on everyday commuter bikes. We did a lot of adventure bikes, gravel bikes, entry-level mountain bikes up to like mid-range mountain bikes. And I'd work on everything from dumb direct-to-consumer e-bikes to all of the
What kind
fancy
of
new stuff.
What kind of bikes?
Dumb direct-to-consumer e-bikes.
I've never heard of a dumb one before.
I'd
love to know more about that.
We had multiple bikes in the shop that had been on fire. They weren't on fire in my shop. And so there's a lot of ridiculous stuff going on with just terrible batteries, terrible motors, terrible brakes, everything terrible about them. And the nicest word I could think about them is dumb.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
This
there's
is your old bike shop.
That's my old bike shop.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's cycle through some photos there.
Well.
So yeah, that was
We'll go through here.
the old shop at 1109 South Pearl.
Okay. Yep.
Um,
That's you working on a bike in the outdoors, probably for.
That was the Death Ride
Death
tour.
Ride. Yeah. I was gonna guess that.
Panarello. You worked on Panarellos?
Pinner yellows?
I worked on some Pinner Schmellows.
Yeah. These were bikes. Good old Jameis and their commitment to steel bikes, right?
You know, and we'll probably get into this later, but I worked with a lot of companies, a lot of manufacturers over the 20 years I spent in the bike industry, and Jameis did the absolute best for me. They're longest running family bike company in the industry in the United States. Not terrible corporate bike company that, you know, doesn't care about small shops. Had a great relation, and I still have a great relationship with Jameis. They're lovely, lovely people over there. We did a bunch of events. This was like a Cruiser Rocks event that we did tech support for. Luckily, the pub next door ran that, and so we got to just
You didn't
step
have to be responsible
outside
for
and-
anything? You just had to be present?
I mean, I was maybe 40% responsible. I was good at pumping tires up.
Can't
for
get
that.
sued for 40%.
No,
That's what I've heard.
No,
That's what my lawyers all told me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
Ooh,
all right. Oh, there's Matt Harmon.
That was Matt Harmon. That
Yeah,
was
Jameis.
at a bike to work day.
Jameis is like an interesting brand. You know, when I first started working at Self Jetty here in Denver, we did a lot with Jameis and like
Yeah.
steel commuters. Like, was it the Jameis Aurora was a great alternative to a Surly.
Oh yeah,
You know,
oh, yeah.
like steel frame, steel fork.
and you get a lifetime warranty on your frame from Jameis, whereas Surly only gives you a 5-year warranty, which tells me they
That
only
makes
trust
me
their
surly.
they only trust their bikes for 5 years, whereas Jameis trusts their bikes for a lifetime.
So salesman of you.
For a
Ooh,
lifetime.
selling me bikes while you
I mean,
selling me bikes.
I had
didn't
people
invite
come
you here
in-
to sell me bikes, man.
I had people coming in asking for a Surly, and I'd sell them a Jameis gravel bike instead.
Yeah,
And of course, there was one of my Surleys from back in the day, 'cause
right there.
they do make rad bikes.
I
They
mean,
definitely
the
do.
Troll was never a rad bike.
Dude, that's so rad. Look at
The
that.
Troll was terrible.
So rad.
Like
I just
this
never-
this bike is the reason the Bicycle Pubes Instagram account exists.
You think
So,
it is? The troll?
100%.
I guess that makes sense.
100%.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you? Because we've talked about the cycle of the bike shop owner,
Okay.
and one of the things is a lot of times, like mechanics become bike shop owners because they think they can do it better.
Yeah.
Um,
That was me.
yeah.
Yeah, I was a mechanic, and I mean, honestly, like one of my other buddies, Chris Fuller, he came to me and was like, while I was working at campus, and was like, "Hey, the bike shop I'm working at is for sale. You want to buy it?" And I was like, "Maybe. Let me think on it." And then, like, I don't know, a month later, my wife became pregnant, and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy the bike shop. I have to do it myself. I can't just be a bike mechanic. Now I have to own a shop and try to support my family that's building. And so
Make the big money.
I made
big bucks.
the big bucks.
Yeah.
So
Good for you.
Now, and one of the pitfalls of that is, I think people getting into the ownership role, thinking that they're gonna kind of have this shop that's gonna be run this way, and then we're falling into some of the same pitfalls of what they came from.
yeah, I mean, you know, my shop was very different from all the other bike shops I worked at. We definitely had some of the same pitfalls, you know, staffing issues, seasonal sales changes. But, you know, me being able to run the show, if I didn't like a bike or didn't trust a bike, I wouldn't bring the bike in to sell. And all the parts I had in my shop, I mean, it was a big mix of the things that I thought were right. And I never had any crap in my store. And if I did have crap in my store, it was like,
You had a cat in your store.
yeah, I guess I had cat.
Cat's crap inside.
I had cat crap. Yeah.
There's physical poop, but not bad bites.
Physical
Not
poop,
some- not
but
some-
not bad bites. And
some
and like
metaphor-
I like being
metaphorical
on.
crap.
I like being honest a lot, and so like I had a set of, you remember those Nog lights?
Yes, I do
Those
remember
those
Nog
are
lights.
terrible. You know, it takes two CR 2032 batteries. They're $4 to $5 each per battery, and the lights run 50 hours. And like 10 years ago, I got I made an order and I got like 8 of the knockoff pairs. Not knockoffs, but
Knockoffs.
one of the not knockoffs. One of the brands that, you know, one of our suppliers made their own, and I brought those in because everybody had them. And people would be like, I want cheap lights. And I'd be like, all right, you could buy these. They're $20 for the pair. You got $16 worth of batteries in there. Every 50 hours, you're going to pay $16 for batteries. Or you could spend a little bit more and get some USB rechargeable lights and just plug them in when they die. And so I much preferred to do that. So maybe one of my pitfalls was like when I ordered some garbage, it would just sit on my shelf for too long and I wouldn't sell it.
Well, we all ran into the pitfall of ordering garbage because there's a few reasons why you end up doing it. One is you're slightly convinced of the product in the first place.
Totally.
Okay, you wouldn't bring in something that you weren't at all convinced of. Another one is it always gets wrapped up in with like an ordering program.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Which is
like
always part of the
I
like,
gotta
oh,
I gotta
well,
hit free shipping.
I gotta hit my sort of milestones for this ordering program. So I might as well bring in this thing as an option because I know I'm not going to sell the quantity of this other thing that I sell normally
Absolutely.
to justify the minimums for the order. So I'll add in the other thing because I know I don't sell enough of the other thing in the first place. So maybe if I diversify it, I'll sell enough. Guess what you don't do? Sell enough.
Stays on the shelf,
Yeah.
gets dusty.
Right. And
Maybe some cat hair ends up on it.
that'll happen if there's vermin running around your
If
bike
there's
shop.
a cat, if there's a cat.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you have wholesalers that try to sneak in like coconut water bottle holders and hula themed bells.
Yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
any idea of who I'm talking about?
I've seen the products
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
I have,
You're like,
I
we
have an
didn't
idea.
order this.
Like,
You're like, somebody was just like, let's throw these in and see if they
you're
notice.
like nowadays that'll happen, but it just happens with AI, and we're just like, I guess I'll take it. Back then we were like, who do I have to hunt down to do this? And now we're just
Yeah,
like,
it was
well,
just
I
some
don't know.
troll in the warehouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
I got some grit to get out or something like that.
Zach, how old
Hold
are
on.
you? How old are you?
I'm 37.
37 years old.
37.
You got a good chunk of life left.
I got a few years left.
Yeah, but you've also put some time in.
I have put time in.
Correct. At 37 years old, a wife and a child. Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Wife
Yep.
and a child. Do you still consider yourself a cyclist?
Yeah. You know, as
In
like
what way?
owning a shop, I definitely didn't get to ride as much as I did before I owned a shop. I mean, I spent 4 years without a car. I was just a bike commuter. Rode to work on a bike, rode to school on a bike, everything on a bike. Got my groceries, Costco trips, all of that fun stuff. Now I'm more of like, not like a destination cyclist, but like I'm an adventure cyclist, I'd like to say. So I want to ride to a good fishing spot. I want to stay away from cars. So gravel and
cars
dirt.
just want to hurt you.
Yeah, gravel and dirt's my favorite. Love my gravel bike. Love my adventure bike packing bike, and then my kiddo and I have a tandem that's perfect for like Waterton Canyon, Highline Canal stuff.
Great. So no Pinarellos in the stable.
No Pinarellos right now. I had one at one
Jeez.
point. It was purple. It was from 1984.
That's old.
Good color. Columbus tubing. I
New
liked.
one.
I liked that bike.
Very nice.
I wasn't even born when that bike was created.
It's 2025 now. What year did you buy Velosul?
I took over Velosul in November of 2011.
Okay. You kind of alluded to this already, but I do want to ask you, why did you buy VeloSoul?
Well, my wife became pregnant, and we ended up in a situation.
And as a pregnant woman, she was like, she had a craving for a bike shop.
No, it was like we wanted to have more financial stability, and like just service rider, bike mechanic level pay wasn't quite enough, and so I wanted to do it for myself and see if I could make more, and I did for a while, so that was good.
So how old were you? I mean, I'm not doing the math. How old were you then in 2011?
24 or
That's
so,
pretty young
maybe?
to be
Dude, that is.
owning a bike shop.
Yeah, it was pretty young to own a bike shop.
I would say. I mean, I was 32 when I opened
Okay.
mine.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it was kind of young. I mean, at that point, it was just the path I was on, and it just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. But did you go to college?
I did go to
Zachary
college. I played lacrosse
Zacharias?
in
I don't
college.
know what your full long name is.
Just Zachary. I played lacrosse in college for a year out in Ohio, and that was a weird culture shock. So I ended up back here.
What did you
at
study in
Metro
college?
State. I studied behavioral science and therapeutic recreation. So technically, not really bike shop degree, but like in a nutshell, it was a bike shop
Adjacent.
degree, because
Adjacent,
like
yeah.
all of the stuff I learned in college was absolutely applicable to owning a bike shop, dealing with all of the customers, dealing with all of the vendors, dealing with all of the weird debauchery that you get along with a bike shop.
Ah,
Oh,
your
wait.
family's watching,
Oh, that's
so we have to
cute.
be good.
Nah, we'll just be honest.
We'll just be honest.
We don't have
Honest
any
is
bad
good.
things to say.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Love it.
Feel free to hit the buttons.
I like lasers. That
That's
sounds like a
pretty good.
laser
Yeah,
sound.
yeah. Laser's good.
We're into the lasers.
So, well, that was kind of my next question was why did you pursue a bike, like with a family on the way in your mid-20s, and trying to be responsible and look to the future and all that. Why did you feel like owning a bike shop was a better option than like, I don't know what else you do with what you studied in college.
I mean, honestly, I
don't know
wanted
what
to
the
be
tr-
like a park ranger. And because I'd been, employee at a bike shop, it was kind of just what I knew at that point.
Sure,
And
which is
so it
reasonable.
just kind of transferred over.
Yeah, fair enough.
We got our old man
Sorry.
eyes.
I know, right? I'm farther away from the
question?
I'm farther away from the computer than normal because we had to
You
bring
could
in.
make
So I'm
the
like,
font bigger.
what else?
You
Yeah,
could.
can
Yeah,
we
you
zoom
could
it?
go
Bigger.
bring
Roll
it
it
up to
on.
15.
This is where I don't my ego is not in my like hairline or my gray or anything. My ego is
I can see.
strictly
Do you need a
resi-
monocle?
it's strictly bound to the I want to keep the screen size at 100% because 100% is like normal.
So
Yeah.
Your font size is 11. I think we need to take it up to 15. But
We went to 125. Yes, I can read it now.
Great.
Fine. I'm trying to figure out the order of these two questions I have because I'm gonna go with what kind when you purchased VeloSoul.
Yep.
Why
Yep.
did you purchase VeloSoul as opposed to starting something new?
They already had all the tools. They already had all the location. They had started a relationship with Jameis at that point. They were a Jameis dealer. And so I just had to kind of step in. I'm the third owner of VeloSoul. The second owners was a guy named Jonathan and a lady named Chase, and they didn't really know each other before they bought the shop together, and so
I feel like we need to have them on the show because this sounds fun.
and they had a shop dog.
They're probably like joint millionaires in some sort of venture
Nope,
at this point.
that's a hard no. So like, there was a shop dog, and neither of them would communicate with each other about like what they needed to spend money on, and so at one point they
Chaos ensued.
got T-shirts that said, "Is Mr. Putter there?" with a picture of the dog, but they didn't have any branding. There was no Velosole on it. The shirt was just, "Is Mr. Putter there?"
These
And,
are
like,
selling for a lot on eBay now.
like $30,000. Go find one.
And if you can find Mr. Putter,
I think it's 30,000 Doge.
they're only sold in Doge.
Oh, Doge coins. Yeah. So they were at a point where they just really didn't. When I purchased it, they pretty much didn't communicate with each other, and they needed to step away, and they needed somebody to step in who was capable of running a bike shop.
Well, and if the only person you had to talk to was yourself, that's even better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as fun as talking to other people is, sometimes talking to myself is the most fun.
Did you ever have a business partner?
No, never had a business partner. Just me.
Good for you.
Yeah.
It was
Good for
it
you.
was it was
Almost
stressful at times.
Yeah,
but
sure. But
yeah.
almost every bike shop, there's very few bike shop situations where I have seen the ownership between a couple of people like actually work out well.
Oh yeah, I mean,
It seems to always work out terribly.
most of them that I know where there was a dual partnership, or more partners than two, it was always just a clusterfuck.
Always a cluster, yeah, for sure. So you bought Velo Soul for those reasons. What kind of bike shop was it when you bought it? I kind of know,
So
but I want you to explain to everybody.
They did
what
a poor
was
job
Velo
at
Soul?
consignment. They did consignment. And like at that point, almost nobody sold used bikes, and it was for good reason. Like so many people over the years came in and tried to sell me stolen bikes, and it's like, hey, pound bricks and leave. And so they did consignment, and they did some other cool bikes as well. But mostly it wasn't thought out. Jonathan was a good mechanic, a great wheel builder, and he did a pretty good job of wrenching on things. And then they had another good mechanic, Chris Fuller, there, who was working, who's the one who introduced me and was like, hey, we need...
That's right. I forgot that Chris was there.
Yeah.
In the basement. Where his head almost hit the ceiling.
Dude, that basement was haunted too. It was creepy.
How was it haunted? Like, did you have real hauntings? Please tell me you had real hauntings.
So yeah, it was one of the creepiest things ever. Now I haven't looked this up with the city assessor or anything, but
I don't think they keep. Do they keep track of hauntings?
Multiple people told me that at one point in that building was a brothel, and so we think we had. We think we had prostitute ghosts inside of the basement over there.
Hooker ghosts?
Hooker ghosts.
Classic.
Baby ghosts?
It wasn't.
Oh, no. Was that the wrong one?
I don't know what's the right one for that.
There's
Probably that one.
Lasers.
Probably that one.
Oh, it's awful.
So it was definitely weird. Night times we'd hear things. Every once in a while, like a pile of parts would move from one area to another. And other than that, it wasn't anything else.
Didn't see anybody floating.
I never saw anybody floating. One time a squirrel got in our back door and climbed up on our tire rack,
the ghost
and then
let the squirrel in.
floated down from the tire rack to the floor, knocked himself out, and then
Did you resuscitate the squirrel?
I let the squirrel out of the back door.
That's very nice of you.
No mouth to mouth or anything like that.
No mouth to mouthing the squirrel. All right. Well, that's probably smart. Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you have any photos of the squirrel?
No photos of the squirrel.
Somewhere deep in my archives, I have a video of the situation.
Okay,
But-
I need you to try to explain to me something because I have a distinct memory of iteration of Velosole prior to you trying to also consign audio equipment.
So, Clayton, the original owner,
Is that, am I crazy?
No, you are absolutely
Okay.
on point. So he built custom speakers And so, yeah, he absolutely sold custom speakers. It was a bike shop and speaker store. And
Which makes sense.
I
Because
mean,
everybody loves it. In my
everybody loves
experience, everybody
music.
loves it when you go ride your bike with a speaker.
these were
Yeah.
big, these were like big speakers too. So you'd have to have a big trailer for that.
Oh, I'm on board with big trailers and speakers everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so that happened. So there was some guy trying to make a bike shop and sell used stuff and sell speakers.
Yeah.
And then a couple trying to kind of do consignment.
Yeah.
Why? Do you have any idea why the couple got into this venture at all? Did they know the previous
One of
owner?
them, one of them worked for Clayton,
Okay.
and then the other worked for Clayton, and then Clayton was like, "I'm out," and he sold it to them.
So this might sound like a lot of inside baseball for people, kind of, right? I don't know what inside baseball means other than that turn of phrase. But anyway, kind of why I'm getting to all this is just to sort of reveal how weirdly convoluted the startup, the transition, and the ownership of a bike shop can be. Like for me, it was fairly simple. Where I started one, we ran for 7 years. I couldn't keep making it work. I had a business partner situation that wasn't working either, and so I chose to close. But we have another situation where someone was able to start something and they kind of had an idea about it. Then somebody else was able to take it over and sort of apply what they thought should be about it. And then along comes you.
Yep.
And then you turn it into and this happens all the time with bike shops. So many people, they kind of get into it and then they get a year, 2 years, maybe 3, and they realize this doesn't work. They can't it's not what they wanted to be. They built so much of them around like their idea of culture. And they think that all of the people who appreciate their idea of culture will just come and be there, then that'll work. But they have to spend money, and that's what I don't think a lot of them get.
Absolutely. You got a lot of that in the bike industry where it's like, all right, like let's do this group ride. And we hosted group rides for a while. I kind of stopped because honestly my insurance got like it just
Insurance doesn't like group rides.
didn't work out. And so rather than paying more than I was paying, I just decided to kind of taper off on our group rides. But I made almost no money from group rides, and I was babysitting adults on bikes.
Yeah.
And like I have enough things to deal with
how
rather
group
than
rides go.
like babysitting adults on a group ride.
But do you agree that it's pretty prevalent that the general population has a sort of expectation that bike shops should host group rides?
I agree. Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
that's definitely
absolutely.
like people want it all the time. And like I've had instances where I worked in a shop that had group rides, and I had fun as an employee, kind of as part of it. But again, I tried to do a few of them as an owner. Terrible idea. It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot of time organizing and running it, not having a good time with it, maybe an hour or so, and then you make nothing on it.
I mean,
it doesn't make
every
you money.
once in a while somebody would buy like
A tube
a
and
power
goo,
A
yeah.
tube of goo, yeah.
a tube, a goo,
Exactly.
maybe a CO2.
Or there will be stuff.
I sold some bikes off of group rides. We'd go on a group gravel ride, and somebody was on like a 20-year-old mountain bike, and so they bought a gravel bike from me. But for the most part, it wasn't a financial benefit.
So when you went into Velosoul, we kind of know that it came from a little bit of some weird roots. And you, again, were one of those guys who thought you could do it better. You had your ideas about what better was. What did you want to create when you first took over Velosoul? What was the ideal?
Honestly, just like a good bike shop that wasn't condescending. Because there's a lot of bike shops out there where, it's uncomfortable for people to go in because there's like, it's kind of cliquey, or all the bikes, the cheapest bike is $7,000 or whatever it is.
I like it.
And as much as I love those stores, I don't think I don't think that type of store benefits an everyday cycling commuter or somebody who's just trying to get into bikes. And so I wanted to just make an environment where, you know, anybody could feel comfortable coming in with their bike and or buying a bike, and it wouldn't break the bank. So
What was the cheapest bike you sold? Retail.
which year? Because like here's
Ever.
the deal.
Ever.
So the
On average.
I mean, over
median
10 years, yeah.
yeah, I mean the cheapest bike we ever stocked
gross net.
was the
Financial
Jameis
terms.
the Jameis Coda,
Yeah.
the base model of the Coda, and like 5 years ago that bike went up from about $330 to $570 at the MSRP, and so originally, you know, I could stock a $330 bike that was made out of steel. It was really nice, and it worked, and it had, you know, good linear pull brakes on it. It had, you know, it had an entry level Shimano
Drag
drivetrain.
your nuts.
Oh, dude, hilarity in the comments. No, I'm familiar with the Coda. It was a good entry level bike. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, but bike prices have kind of gone crazy.
they have. So before bike prices went crazy, I had a family buy. They bought 4 Codas from me. Their youngest was 11. They put him on a 14-inch ladies one. It was black, so he wasn't offended. And this family.
So a step through.
No, it was just a traditional diamond frame
And
or
why
whatever.
is it called a ladies?
Because it was the ladies' size and it had a ladies' saddle on it. It was, you know, the shorter saddle basically.
The
And this family, they were super rad. They came up from Durango to buy these bikes from me, and they rode from Durango to Los Angeles, California, to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and back. Now they took like 2.5 years to do it. The parents owned a homeschool program, and they would, you know, ride and stay at a friend's house for a couple of weeks and camp there, and then carry on and ride more. But they went on a 2-year adventure on their bikes, and that might have been one of the coolest families I helped out. And then once they got back, they came back and they bought a pair of Jameis sequels from me, which was kind of the upgraded version of the Coda. It's flat bar gravel bike or whatever you want to call it, and it had through axles and tubeless ready wheels and all the fork zits and all the mounts for all the crazy adventure gear you could imagine.
Because our last week's show was about, I call them bike-shaped objects.
BSOs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, there's that's the cheapest of the cheap. The Walmart special.
Yeah.
Or now Amazon special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people that start shops want to get you at least in a level above that.
Oh yeah, and it's, you know, I never stocked BSOs. I think through some of our vendors we could have gotten something that would have been similar to a BS. Obviously it would have been nicer because I think one of the biggest problem with the BSOs is they're not assembled correctly to begin with, and then they just start this downward spiral of mechanical issues, and it's just once they hit a certain point, it's just they're toast. And so I think one of the biggest differences from, you know, even the cheapest bike shop quality bike you can get is it was assembled by a mechanic who cares about a bike rather than like the last kid to show up at Walmart on the shift that he was supposed to, you know, they need to build the bikes on. So
Yeah, they're going from the lawn equipment to the bicycles and then doing grills after that.
You know, and like I don't even trust those people to build my grill. I care about my grill. I care about my smoker. I want to know that it's assembled properly.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to have a gas leak. Propane
Nope.
leak.
nope. That's the right one.
Nailed it. What do we got next, Jason?
Well, it's similar to what we were just talking about, but if you want to expound, you can. If you want to skip this question, fine. But we're going to throw it out. When you started bought your shop, started your store, did you feel that there was something missing from shops, sort of generally in Denver at the time, or did you just feel like you felt like Denver really needed your expression of a bike shop? Kind of like
maybe. I mean, I
it's
feel
kind
like
of a positive and negative
like
of the same idea.
I mean, Denver's always been known for having a lot of good bike shops, I think. I mean, there's a lot of not so great stuff going on in the bike industry, obviously.
We're gonna get to that.
We're definitely going to get to that. But I think, most of the bike shops around kind of had their little niche, and it worked out. And I wasn't trying to do rocket surgery and completely change what a bike shop is. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to be a good, honest, friendly bike shop.
Which
where
I think at that time for Denver was probably actually a little bit interesting.
This is true.
Because Denver doesn't have, I mean, for good and bad, Denver has no shortage of bikes that appeal to the upper end of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
For clientele.
Absolutely.
Not because of the bike shops, just because those people are, that customer is here.
Totally.
So
totally.
The bike shops will reflect it. But yes. I agree. Yeah, when I started, well, I mean, kind of alternatively, when I started my store in 2012, which was a year later, I really felt like Denver needed a really service-centric
totally
idea, because
totally.
Everything felt so sales-oriented. Mm-hmm. Like you'd walk in and it was just sales. So it was like this, and it was just like, so much bling and fancy and new thrown at you all the time, and I felt like Denver needed an expression for high quality service and a concentration on that.
And the way you had that set up was so nice.
I tried.
It was real cool.
But I even with that in mind, I lost my way because just existing in a retail front required people sort of pandering to people's expectations that you also have stuff to sell. So it was always adding in more stuff to sell. What do we sell? And that was my constant concern. Sort of year in, year out. What do we sell? Do we sell this? And how do we sell more? And that sort of killed my passion for it in the end.
Yep.
Was what
Dealing with all the products.
what I wanted to create, I did in a sense, but I couldn't create it on its own without all the stuff that I didn't want to do.
Totally.
So I wondered if you felt any sort of that at all, or if you felt like what you created kind of from beginning to end was what you wanted to build. Because I would say what I had at the end was not what I set out to make.
Yeah, I mean my favorite years of my bike shop was maybe 3 years before COVID.
That's 2017 if you're doing
2017 we had, and I stocked carbon gravel bikes at that point, some super cool high-end stuff, and as COVID came, the price of bikes, I mean, honestly, it's 30% or so more expensive than it was the day before COVID. And
did you feel
like the price point of the bikes that I had, it's not that the quality went down.
Yeah.
The quality was still there, but the price of the bikes got more expensive. So I couldn't really stock as many of the super high-end bikes that I wanted to.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, moving on.
Well, I think that's also just business in general. Like, you set out to do this thing, and then maybe the market shifts.
Oh yeah.
And you're I can't do that anymore. So what am I doing now? Okay, I'm going to do this thing, and I think that's kind of what gets owners I think a bike shop owner has a life of about 7 years. From you're enjoying it, you're not enjoying it, maybe you're starting to get completely miserable and maybe bored with it, and then you're Bring on the $300 bike. Let's do it. Let's just pump some numbers, dude.
Yeah.
Let's make some money. I mean, I've seen it like multiple times where it's like, dude, all right.
That was the end game for mine. Like, I was at 7 years in, and I knew my rent was going up, which is another thing. A whole Denver situation, rent going through the roof all the time. My rent was going to go from $4,400 a month to $6,500 a month, and then by the end of the next 5-year lease, it was going to be $7,800 a month.
And that's when you were going to start leasing cell phones.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't have the capacity. I don't know how this space produces that much more money.
Well, GG Cycles starts carrying Mint Mobile.
We would have to.
You start signing up.
Yeah, just start signing contracts.
Would you like a cell phone with your bicycle?
And there's a soft serve in the corner.
I could get down with that.
I am not joking when I was just waiting for someone to give me the chance to let my place be a laundering front. I was just, somebody please come in.
Come.
I just didn't know the right people. I don't know enough
shady individuals.
Well, I don't
Like,
know
literally,
enough
Jason was
organized crime.
like
I don't know
4 to 5
enough.
laundry machines.
Yeah. Just whatever you want. Just
It's a laundromat. It's a bike shop.
let me
it's a
do
cafe.
my work, and then I'll charge you like $10,000 a month for a tune-up a month, and you pay me cash, and everything will be great.
And we sell
Just
burner
waiting
phones.
for the chance.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's where I was. I knew that I couldn't. That what I needed to do, I was incapable of doing. So,
And I think
put an end to it.
you know, as a business owner, you're trying to hit a moving target.
Oh
You're
yeah.
like, I think we're gonna sell X amount of rechargeable lights, so let's bring those in. Oh, we didn't sell that. Okay, let's sell the cheap lights because that's what people want. Okay, we did that, but it sucked for the customer.
Yeah.
You know, so this is kind of like weave, and then you're like, well, let's just sell $300 bikes. Let's just do that.
Zach, you're a pro. You're a veteran. We got a platter full of veterans for you guys tonight. So I'm going to ask you this. You've been in this for a while, but since you started your shop, say 2011, so 2010, 2011 to today, would you agree that the bicycle industry has changed?
Oh, 100%.
How would you describe its changes?
Oh, my margins have shrunk. All of the suppliers have just. I mean, repair part margins have just gone down. Bike margins have stayed about the same, but repair part margins just. And
Yeah,
I
call the cops. It's robbery.
would you even go as far as to say,
yeah. Yeah, and it made it tough because I used to be able to sell, make a lot of money on service.
So you're admitting now you just wanted to make a lot of money off of people.
I mean, I had
That's all
I
so
had
you
bills
open a
to
bike
pay.
shop,
You opened a bike shop to make a lot of money off of poor people. Way
I
to
mean,
go, Zach.
everybody knows that if you want to make money in the bike industry, you're gonna spend $2 million to make $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think our industry at this point is inherently flawed. I think we're not getting the support from most of the manufacturers that we need to. I mean, you can buy Shimango parts online.
Ooh,
For
Shimango?
yeah,
Shimigo.
Shimango.
Shamango?
And you can buy them online for almost less than what our wholesale is, and it just screws our shops. It screws every single one of the shops. And then the thing is, if we buy our parts from one of our distributors, there's a line item on every part from Shimango that's like, you can't sell these online.
Right.
And it's like, but how is everybody else selling them online? And then, you have good old...
They knew the right criminals.
Yeah, and then you have good old bro Jeff Bezos. And I can't tell you, have you seen a fake Shimano chain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people who come in with a Shimano chain, and it's absolutely fake. And, packaging is all fucked up. Everything's just not right. I mean, and they're pre-warned. They don't come good. They're just terrible, and they're asking me to install the chain, and I'm like, well, it's kind of a liability. You bought your chain from a nefarious source, and
What's all this loser talk? A liability, like, what are you trying to do? Just put it on, make it work.
Yeah, come on, bro.
and so
Put it on. Do your, do your
This chain
job.
was $8.
and so ultimately it makes us as bike shop professionals look bad, because we're trying to sell our products at the MSRP, and people can see products that may be real, may be fake online at below what our wholesale cost is, or close to our wholesale cost. And so it just puts us in a bad position as a bike shop owner.
That's an interesting point, because not only has the availability of the product changed, the amount of information that's available to customers has changed.
Absolutely.
So they can see more information. They can go and see, so they can see this thing that on Amazon that costs $8 that looks like a Shimano chain that's copied very well, and then they can go over to Jensen and see Jensen selling it for a little bit more, but with an X across the MSRP. So they know, oh, this is what bike shops were selling it to us for, and now the online seller is selling the real product for even a discount off of that. And then the fake is being sold for even less. So there's all of this stuff, and so yeah, the seller, the bike shop, the guy who's trying to just like make enough money to pay his fucking rent, and like, you know, put some food on the table, he's got to sell it for this much, because that's how running a business works. He looks like the bad guy.
Yeah.
He looks like the one who's like, oh, why are you selling it for so much?
Well, I mean, you could pull up on Amazon the fake Kashima coating $130 fork.
Right.
We looked at that last week, where there's stuff designed to look like it's deceptive. It's.
Well, we didn't even get into the ones. There's legitimate, not the right word. There is
Illegitimate.
There is actual, like, the packaging says Shimano. It's blue. It has everything. And usually once you get into the Chinese on the back, then you realize that it's the wrong.
Yep.
Well,
but everything else
Shimano is a Japanese company.
Right. But everything else is like exact. I had it happen last summer. Most specifically, someone brought in it was a SRAM red chain. And when they brought the chain box in, immediately it looked a little wrong. The coloring was a little off. I pulled the chain out of the box, and immediately, so SRAM red 22, like top of the line, had the hollow pins and the links and all that, and the little rainbow color and whatever. And I pulled it out of the box, and immediately could tell it was just like wiggly side, just like flopping like this. And so when the customer came back in, I was like, I can't put this on. You can say, because this is no.
You're gonna ruin your cassette.
You're gonna believe that this product is supported by SRAM's warranty. It is not, because it's going to fail, because it's junk. And luckily I had another one on hand to be able to look like, this is a new one from SRAM. When you have a new one, they barely bend like this, and then this one is like that.
Yeah.
Noodle machine, dude.
Any other quick quips on how you think the bike industry overall has changed? We got a couple other specific questions.
Yeah, I mean, the direct-to-consumer thing is a big liability. So many of these companies out there banging out, $500 gravel bikes with not terrible parts on them, but they're not assembled correctly. And, we have multiple types of BSOs, right? We got like the Walmart BSOs, but then you also have the BSOs where it's like, my bike came disassembled. I just had to put the front wheel and the pedals on.
Right.
And it's like, well,
that's not it.
You need to make sure the wheels are tensioned. We need to adjust all the cables.
Well, but then you start sounding like a prick, because you're like, oh, well, that's not good enough. In order for it to be good enough, it has to be with us. And so then you get accused of being like a pretentious
elitist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's two sides of the coin, though. Like,
maybe even three-sided coin.
I mean, there are some people that are doing the pre-built bike correctly. I bought 2 used bikes I am a bike mechanic, so I threw the wheel on, threw the handlebars on, pedals, it's ready to go.
But so the price point of the bikes you bought, I'm assuming, are much higher and better.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes those bikes that are nicer come in a pre-built situation where, like, yeah, maybe you just have to put the front wheel on and send it. I'm talking specifically of like Poseidon and like State and some of these like cheap bikes. And luckily,
State's one of the better ones.
Yes.
they're better now. They're better now.
I was just looking at
but, like,
Soleil. I was like, oh yeah, fucking Soleil.
Oh yeah.
They're the worst. One of the worst.
And then like the direct-to-consumer e-bikes, like those things are just a liability. I had 3 in the shop that had been on fire. They weren't on fire in my shop, but they had been on fire. I had to strip parts off of them, and I didn't even let the bike into my service area. I sat on the floor and pulled all the parts off and was like, your bike needs to go outside now. I cannot have my customers looking at that.
There was a huge fire in New York a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
On like one of the city blocks that's just, it could have burned down hundreds of people's homes.
Started by
Started
e-bikes?
by e-bikes, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the
Huge
first
fire.
one.
And they were
And it won't be
pulling
the last.
the bike carcasses out, and they were all cheap.
Yeah.
cheap
Well, I
e-bikes.
know shop owners who won't let an e-bike in their shop now with the battery on it.
Get on that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what I did. And
Yeah.
I serviced some of these direct-to-consumer e-bikes. I paid a lot more on my insurance because of it. But 99% of the shops in Denver won't touch them. So I got myself...
Yeah, because they're elitist.
Yeah. And so I...
Just trying not to have their building burned down. They're like, these elitist fucks wouldn't work on my bike.
So my rule was always like, your bike can be in my store. I will not touch any of the electronic components. If they stop working, that's your deal. I will bleed your brakes. I will install new brakes. And most of the time, I would just put new brakes on because the brakes were just
Yeah,
garbage.
they're always terrible.
One thing about e-bikes is as soon as you touch a wire or disconnect a wire, you are taking responsibility for that
That
thing,
whole system.
the whole system.
Yeah.
So that like on one hand you're like, maybe they're being a little too like sensitive. They're just sensitive bike mechanics. Just,
Well, they
being all
just
sensitive about it.
they only want to work on fancy road bikes. It's always road bikes. It's always right there. They only want to work on fancy road bikes.
But let's
That's not
say you
it.
see a frayed wire and you're like trying to do a favor and you're like, maybe I'll put a connector and wrap some electrical tape, or I'll put a little shrink wrap even if you're sophisticated.
Fancy boy.
Heat gun.
And that was always a no-go for me because that's a can of worms I don't want to deal with.
Yeah. Like,
And so it was just like, I'll touch your brakes, I'll touch your tires, I'll put new tubes in, I'll adjust your derailleur.
Right.
And that
I will
was,
touch the bicycle parts only.
yep.
Yeah.
And we always had to be very clear with the consumer about that.
yeah. Like you are taking on a huge responsibility working on e-bikes. If you are unplugging things, if you're reconnecting things, if you are fixing a frayed wire, if you are charging a battery,
Mm-hmm.
that is, now you are an e-bike shop,
Yep.
and that's a whole nother level.
Yep. Well,
And-
Zach, if the bicycle industry has changed, bicycle companies and suppliers are part of the bicycle industry.
Oh yeah.
In your experience, how has the bicycle supplier bike company changed in the last 10, 15 years?
I mean, corporate buyouts have sucked. I'm the only company of mine or the only bike manufacturer that we carried at the shop that didn't have a corporate buyout was Jameis. And I, from day one to the last day, we got good margins on bikes, good support from the company. I knew the product designers. I know the product designers. I can call them and say, hey, like, the cranks you put on this bike are garbage. Change them now. And they won't change them immediately because they're already on some bikes. But the next product run, the next cycle, they'll put different cranks on. They'll do what we asked. And every single time I asked that of Jameis, they did it. And they were great. But like the other major manufacturer we carried was Cannondale. And they got purchased by Pawn, which is a big Dutch holding conglomerate company that just, I mean, they own Santa Cruz, they own Cervelo, they own Gazelle, and I mean, they've destroyed GT. GT's basically dead now.
Pon Holdings is a Dutch conglomerate in the transportation sector. It is one of the 5 largest bicycle manufacturers in the world.
Yeah. And as soon as Pon took over Cannondale, my service from them went down. They started treating me like crap.
That's
you
a
know,
feature.
it's a terrible feature. That's a terrible feature.
Like,
I mean,
you have to hit
But it's good for
3.
them because they're not spending too much time
Yeah.
coddling you,
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta toughen it out.
buddy.
Your soul callus has to get a little harder.
Yeah, your
And-
fellow soul callus.
Ooh. and
It's hard.
it just made it difficult. You know, like I went from having a great Cannondale rep to a terrible Cannondale rep. I mean, honestly, like I'm not going to say the dude's name, but the day I met him,
We'll call out companies, not people. Maybe
yeah,
that'll be a fair rule. on
companies,
the
not
show.
people.
Companies are faceless.
The dude came in and dropped his computer off and walked in and then was like, hey, hold on a minute. I gotta go outside for a second.
Wait, did he have an appointment?
Yeah, he had an appointment
Okay,
with
well,
me. I
that's-
knew
that's
he
a
was
plus.
coming.
That's a plus.
And like I thought he was going to go and grab my staff like a bunch of t-shirts. Like normally that's what happens when a dude's like, "Hey, I'm your rep. Like I'll be right back in a minute." And instead, he goes out and he takes a picture of my neighbor's business. They were called sold out posters. Now they're sold out vinyl and posters, and they sold like super high end old Grateful
Sold out.
Dead posters, like
Gotcha.
Pink Floyd posters for a lot of money. And so he goes over and he takes a picture and he's like, and he comes back in and he's like, ha, I have this thing with one of my buddies where if we see a dumb business, we take a picture and send it to each other and laugh about it. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Super cool.
Like,
That's exactly
this
what we
could,
want from people. in
That
our
could
bi-
be
in
my
our
friend.
industry.
That could be my wife's business. That could be my second business. Like, why would you do that? Why would you tell me about that? Like, that's my neighbor. And oddly enough, like that company is doing really well, and they're actually taking over my old space.
You know what it is? They didn't sell enough crypto, bro.
No,
You got
not enough crypto.
bro.
Yeah.
If they sold Dogecoin, now that's a smart business.
Or
I've been
was
holding on to mine.
the new one
on.
Hawk Tua coin? Was that a thing that I saw?
If you bought Hawk Tua, you deserve what's coming to you.
Do you like throwing your money? Like, I flushed some money down the toilet this week.
So
How'd that work out for you?
It was great. I had a great time.
Okay.
Just went right down. I know it's Denver wastewater is going to be taking care of that.
we got it.
And we're good.
It's gonna get scanned for COVID, and you'll be fine. No, I'm so with you on sort of the corporate buyout of smaller bike company situation. We were a felt dealer when I had my store.
Yeah.
And felt was good. They were still, when I was working with them, they were still owned by the guy who started the company, Jim Felt. And he ran it. Their company was still based in California, even though their manufacturing had moved to Asia like everybody else.
Yeah.
Everything else in the company was still based in California. Well, Jim Felt, he's like, he wanted to bounce. He was done. He retired. He sold out. He has the right to do that. Everybody gets the right to sell out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say so. I've never had the chance. I would love it. Man, I'd love to
Your
sell
email
out.
list needs to get bigger.
I would love to sell out.
Yeah.
Big email list.
Thousands more people.
I'm on air being like, I just want to be a laundering front or a sellout, and I'm failing at both of those things.
Well, you haven't had a good hit in years, dude.
But Felt was, and I felt. I thought I always called them like the small bike shop equivalent of a bicycle company.
Yeah.
Like Jameis, they were
Absolutely.
I always knew who I could talk to. I knew they would listen. My voice would be heard. My reps were respectful. I knew that they were paid by the company that we worked with, and that if whatever I ordered paid them, relationship was fantastic. It was great. In the I forget when it was, the last couple of years that I was working with them, they were bought out by the Rossignol Ski Company. Because apparently they wanted, I don't know why, Rossignol, French fucking skis, wanted to own this American bike company. But anyway, they bought it, stripped it a lot of its coolness. Everything got, moved out of California.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was the same. And then they started taking advantage of everything in the dealer agreement that is like you don't pay attention to, which was like, we can change the terms of this agreement whenever we want. Which was like, you had these terms, which was like, okay, you order in September and you pay in June or whatever. Well, now we're changing it. You now have to pay in February.
Yeah.
So they started changing everything sort of as we went along, and there's nothing you can do about it because yes, it's in the dealer agreement. Yes, you signed on to it, but no, you don't expect to actually get taken advantage of on all those little things. Because if you did suspect,
you wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it.
If you did suspect, they're gonna get me on every one of these little minute things that are in here, you would have no dealer agreements. You wouldn't sign on with anybody. You'd have no store.
Yep.
So yeah, I did it, and the same thing happened. Yeah, with them, and then the terms changed, the minimums changed, everything got harder and stricter, and they stopped listening to us about everything. They took everything in the brand that was cool away. And I'm going to say right now, if you've been uninterested in felt bicycles for the last 8 years, this is why.
Because they're a French ski company.
Well, and they've been bought actually at least once, if not twice.
Oh, really?
Since then.
Jeez.
I don't even know who owns them now.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. That's part of what I agree, of what has changed about the bicycle industry is you had a lot of these small companies that were doing really good, I think they were doing good. I'll say they were doing good. They seemed fine. Making what I thought was cool product. A lot of them had their own unique identity, their own unique character.
Mm-hmm.
Jameis was like that. Probably it still is.
Oh yeah.
Seems to be.
Oh yeah.
Felt was like that. Like they had their whole cruiser line. They had a bunch of.
They had some cool cruisers.
They had the coolest cruisers out available.
Everyone loves the cruisers.
Everybody loves them. They were the best.
I hate beach cruisers.
They were cool. They were they're not great for Denver. But they were.
All the beaches we have.
The bikes were fucking cool.
We got what's the lake?
Cherry Creek.
Yeah,
Cherry Creek has a beach.
And Chatfield.
Chatfield has a beach.
Bear Creek has
Creek,
soda. Yeah, the Bear Creek has a. We have many beaches right here in the Denver
Yeah,
area.
they're like what?
They're
200
fake
feet
beaches.
long.
Yeah.
They're fake. It's fake
Yeah.
beach.
You can still ride a beach cruiser near them. You just can't ride a beach cruiser near them and then go buy what's the pancake batter that is in the.
I have no idea what you're saying.
I have no idea what he's talking
pancake
about
batter.
either.
They take the pancake batter and instead of making pancakes, they fry it.
Waffles.
Not
Like a
waffles.
funnel cake?
Funnel cake.
Funnel cake.
Funnel cake is
okay.
just pancake batter.
It's pancake batter?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? Anyway, you can't buy a funnel cake on your beach cruiser in Denver. We're off track. We always get off track.
What else do we have
Just
on the
saying,
list?
I agree.
What
The-
else do we have on the list?
Bicycle companies getting taken over by larger corporations, diluting everything, making it boring and making it all the same. It's killing
Well, and
innovation.
it
It's killing
screws the bike
anything.
shops. It
It
kills
screws bike
us.
shops, yep.
It just,
Yeah.
it's not good.
So, customers have also changed. We'll move on pretty quickly here in a sec, but customers have also changed in the last however. Do you? I
Yeah,
would say so. Do you feel
um,
like the customer base
you
has
know,
changed somewhat in the last number of years?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you got the online researcher who knows like every single spec that's on the bike and it's like that doesn't matter. Like the bike as a whole matters, but like what chain they put on the bike doesn't matter. I had a dude like 7 or 8 years ago who came in every Saturday for an hour and asked me the same series of questions about a Jameis Renegade. refused to test ride one. Came in week after week. And asked me these same questions for an hour. I think he came in 12 Saturdays. And it took so much time. And then finally on the last Saturday, he came in and he's like, I'm going to buy the bike. And I'm like, look, man, like you haven't test rode the bike. You need to test ride the bicycle. And he's like, no, I don't need to test ride it. I finally figured it out.
Pretty pretentious of you.
And I finally convinced the
telling
dude
him
to,
what he should do.
yeah, I finally convinced him to take a test ride, and he hated it because he didn't know how the STI shifters work on the drop bars. The dude needed a flat bar gravel bike, not a drop bar gravel bike. And he wasted so much of his time, and he told me about all the other bike shops. He did the same thing too, looking at all the other brands, gravel bikes. And then he also told me about all of the hours he spent researching online, like every night until 3 a.m. Like this dude wasted like 3 months of his life. And had the dude just taken the damn bike on a test ride,
the amount of how little value people put in their time sometimes.
and it's wild. It's like, like ride the bike.
It's
All
right
you have to
fucking
do
there.
is put
right
your
there.
legs over it, put your foot on a pedal, and
I will let you go.
and
Take a half an hour. I'm fine. Leave.
But leave
So-
your license with me, please.
yeah,
Please.
license, give
You
me
always
your
double
license
check
and
that
credit
this
card.
is actually your credit card too.
Yeah.
And so like I think now we have this information age where like there's so much information, like you can just look up online or on your pocket computer and find out like all of this information, and then all of a sudden like you're a professional in it. And so we have that aspect, and then we have the online shopper who's like, I'm going to buy this chain on Amazon. And it's like, bro, that's fake. And I know we talked about that already, but like, that's one of the big problems is all of these professional
But does
online.
precision really matter?
Yeah, well, it's a good point because there's a whole swing because we have the over-informed person
Oh, yeah.
and the terribly under-informed person
Oh, yeah.
who is buying fake things
Yeah.
and believing they're the real, and we're stuck here trying to like in the space of a fucking day deal with both ends of the spectrum of these people.
Sometimes multiple times on
multiple
each
times.
of these
Yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly.
But you're not buying anything from the store.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
thing. Is you
Well-
go into the store and you buy the thing, and then the person gives you a little bit of their time,
Yeah.
and then you pay a little bit for installation, and then you have the thing, you have it installed. But now it's just like, let me ask a question and then leave
The,
really quick.
the good old
Suck.
time bandits.
Just suck it away.
It happens often.
Nick's point is great because it's just like, if you would actually just listen to the person whose job it is to know these things. I know they're a pretentious dick. Sorry, get over it. Just listen to them and buy the thing that they have. They've done the fucking work for you. Like they've gone through all the stuff. They've bought the thing. They've shipped it in. It's sitting there. The Jameis Renegade is sitting there.
Yeah. Just take it for a spin.
Even if they're not buying it and buying that one, the decision of whether or not they should be can be easily determined if they actually just fucking listen to you and talk to you.
I mean, imagine how much time that guy would have had to do fun things like eat funnel cakes.
He could have eaten so many funnel cakes
if he
next
would
to
have-
Bear Creek Lake Park.
If he would have taken
his-
that bike on
on
a
his-
test ride and then been
gotta
like,
take a
I
little
don't
break.
like it. And so
No.
it's like, man,
Well, Nick,
5-minute break.
let's get happy for a second.
I like getting happy.
Happy than sad.
Yeah.
What was the best part about owning a bike shop?
Oh, butts on bikes. I helped a lot of people get their butt on bike. I helped a lot of people get healthy. A lot of people, people who had DUIs, I gave them new freedom by helping them ride bikes to get to work or get to wherever they wanted to go. So butts on bikes for sure.
Yeah. Same. Like whether it was helping somebody who had no other way get to work, help them get to work. Whether it was fixing their flat, replacing a cable on their bike, whatever it was, just helping them get to work because that's how they get to work. one of the best feelings in the world.
Totally.
For me, also, this all on the other end of the spectrum, like giving somebody who has a race this, the following weekend, their bike back to them quickly, fucking dialed, perfect, and given to them so that they go and they race and they get it and then they tell me things went great. I had no problems with the bike.
That's always great.
Because that person's getting, both of those people are experiencing like different ideas of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Like this person is they're happy to get to work.
Yeah.
That's great. And there are bike shops in every city and pretty near every bike shop out there. Helps those people.
Totally.
And they love it. Or if you're selling, I could expound on this forever too. Just like somebody who, they've decided that, I want to be done driving.
Yeah.
My bike commute is 8 miles. Yeah. And then you give them that, and then they're going to ride it for years.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I here and there I see bikes in the wild that I sold to people. That is the fucking best feeling.
Yep. I love it. I see it all the time,
seeing that
too.
thing still used and knowing what that's doing for that person. They're either getting somewhere or they're getting exercise or they're just, having just getting out and experiencing, some of the sun in the outdoors that we have in Denver. Yeah,
Totally.
It's fucking great. I am the same. And I think what I want people to understand is that feeling is what almost all bike shop owners are trying to do.
I think you're right. Absolutely. Whether you're, high-end elitist bike shop who, cheapest bike you sell is $8,000, or whether you are just, you're just selling cost-effective commuter, even if they're used bikes, I think seeing that, seeing your people ride the bikes, I think that's a big thing. So.
Yep.
Now,
Well,
one thing we've chatted about on the show in the past is the warranty, the warranty thing. So, in shops kind of getting squeezed about warranties, like in other industries, companies actually will reimburse. Actually, if there is a recall, the company pays you to change that thing out.
Yep.
But when there's a warranty, the shop's expected to do it for free. What's your take on that?
I mean, not necessarily all the time. Like I had a situation where a dude had a Jameis carbon gravel bike and the rear wheel was just toast, and he rode with his headphones in, and he rode.
It's one solution.
He rode 30 miles and completely, I mean, his wheel is going like this, and he wore a hole in his chainstay. And, he wet, dirty gravel, it's like sandpaper. It would have done that on a steel bike. It would have done that on an aluminum bike. I mean, 30 miles with headphones in, you can't hear anything, like, frame failed. And so Jameis was kind enough to send him a new frame. However, the guy paid for the labor for assembling the frame.
Yeah.
So I didn't lose anything. I made money because I serviced his bike, and then his wheel was toast, and I was like, I could put another rim on rebuild your wheel and put another rim on, or I could sell you these really cool other wheels. And he ended up spending like $2,500 on a set of carbon wheels and new tires, and so like I actually made money in that situation. I think it depends. Like the other company we talked about that I don't like very much, there was a bike that got sold direct to consumer from their website, so they're directly competing with me. I got way less margin than I would have if I would have sold the bike. And then the water bottle cage bolt was stripped out, and it was cross-threaded and from the factory.
Yeah.
And
I've never seen it. I don't know what you guys do.
I don't believe you. And it was Loctited in. And I spent, I lost money on this. I spent hours trying to drill it out. I broke 3 drill bits. I tried to warranty it with them. They sent me a part which wasn't the right part. I tried to warranty it with them again, and they heard I was closing, so they turned my dealer portal off. So then I had to spend 3 weeks with them trying to get the dealer portal back up and running. And then finally, I got it back up and running, and they were like, all right, here are your options. You can buy a new bike at a 15% discount and sell that bike from your store. And I'm like, look, you can either send us a whole new bike, or you can send me a frame and a $400 labor credit, because it had a Bosch motor, everything was internally routed. And I thought a $400 labor credit, I thought it wasn't quite fair on my part, but I thought it was at least something that they might appease. I mean, that's, whole motor transfer, new, cutting internal routed brake hoses and putting new olives and barbs. I mean, it's some hours of time. And they were basically like, no. And we're going to just deal with the customer. And I never found out what happened after that.
Yeah.
Like, my guess is the customer did like a credit card chargeback or something like that, because I don't know.
The direct to consumer, I mean, that was a big point, is when everything goes right, great. But when you have a warranty, then you have to go to a shop.
Yep.
Who's paying that mechanic? And when you hear the word warranty, you assume that it's going to be covered.
Free.
Premium.
Kind of convoluted.
So it doesn't work anymore because you've taken that sale away from the shop, so that doesn't exist. When you buy a direct to consumer, the warranty process is a pain in the ass. And that's one thing we've talked about on the show, is now you have to go through a shop, that shop has to get paid, and so yeah, you got to figure out what that is. Is the company paying the shop to cover that warranty? Yeah, what's that look like moving forward? Is one thing we've talked about. Or are you sending a bike back? Do you have to cover shipping? When you send a bike back, some companies will charge you a fee, a restocking fee. Even if it's like a warranty, or maybe you don't ship it properly and the bike gets damaged going back to them, they're like, well, that's a $200 fee on a warranty. Like, worst case scenario, but that's some of the stuff I've seen and dealt with.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation. It definitely is. And Jameis was always good to me with warranty stuff. A lot of like the parts manufacturers, I mean, if a cassette failed from certain companies, they'd just send a new cassette. And like, so it kind of got to the point where like I didn't really care too much until this last thing with the Cannondale happened, and then I got pissed off.
Yeah, because you're not being supported at that point.
Oh yeah, they could care less.
Because you already have a sense that you're not being supported, and then you finally realize, oh, I'm actually not being supported by the people whose basically paychecks I'm paying by ordering their product. So never mind, we're done.
Exactly.
You save $200, and then I'm supposed to do this for free.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think there's, with some of these corporate takeovers and some of the these bike companies have gone from being kind of smaller, relationship driven scenarios to just very corporate level dealt stuff. Yeah, you lose that sense where you work together for for your for your mutual good.
It gets uncomfortable real quick.
Yeah, and then you gotta bounce, because they think these fuckers think they own you, right? They think they can like force you, and you can just you do what we do. Fine, I'll bounce. I'm done.
Yeah.
We're not doing it.
It's what I did.
I'm out.
It's
yeah. I'm not playing your fucking game. I don't care about your brand. Your brand, you're done. Like, you're done here. I'm sorry. See you later.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not sorry.
Sorry.
Well,
not
Zach,
sorry.
we got to wind up, but we got a couple quickies.
Okay, let's do it.
If somebody told you they wanted to open a bike shop and they came to you for advice, what would you tell them?
Don't do it.
Same.
I
Don't do
had
it.
multiple
Don't-
people over like the last 3 weeks come to me. One dude bought a bunch of tools from me as I was liquidating everything, and he's like, I'm about to retire, and I'm really thinking about starting a bike shop, and like the guy can change his tires and tubes and like maybe adjust his shifting, but like he's not a bike mechanic, and he's like, I really want to open a bike shop. What should I do? I'm just like, don't do it. Like margins are not good right now. The market's not good. And unless you absolutely are competent with the tools and competent with the bikes and competent with the parts,
And you own your building.
you're gonna
already.
and you own your building already, you're gonna run into you're just gonna have a bad time.
Yep. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I agree. I knew you were going to say that. I wanted to get it on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if you've been a professional mechanic for 20 years and you
Yeah,
have
work
the
in your garage.
tools,
It's fucking great.
if you know exactly what you're doing, if you have good relations, like maybe go for it, but you absolutely have to know what you're up against at this point.
And you
it's
better, for damn sure, find somewhere cheap to rent.
oh yeah.
That's my
Go to a
take.
small town in the mountains that doesn't have a bike shop yet.
Rent cheap. Yeah, rent someone's basement to run your bike shop out. I actually have a question and I have a suspicion. I'd love to know your take on it. You have one child. You
I do.
said so.
Yes.
We talked earlier. He's in 7th grade.
7th grade.
Okay. I want to know from your perspective, does your child growing up and the schedule demands of the bike shop, did that influence your decision to close at all?
Kind of, but not really. I mean, we homeschool our son, and so
So he's around all the time.
so he's around all the time. But like I mean,
Which is great. Yeah, actually.
I've never had in the last 20 years. I've never had a traditional week schedule. I've never had a Saturday and a Sunday off, unless it's like Christmas or the 4th of July. Other than that, Tuesdays and Wednesdays have been my weekends, and like. So this past weekend, I had Saturday off. I got a few things done. That was the day I handed over my keys. And then I went to the storage unit, unloaded some stuff, and then got some errands done. And we ended up at the Edgewater Public Marketplace. And,
Oh, yeah, that place is
and
fun.
like we ate some great food.
Yeah.
But boy, I was overwhelmed with how many people were there. Like
Well, that'll
normally
happen.
I'm there on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday and there's like 30 people there. And like we were all sitting there like there's no tables. What
It's
are
about your son,
how
not
are
the
we
general
gonna
public,
do?
but yes.
so like ultimately, I like we spend our days kind of how we want to spend our days, and we can
Yeah, that makes
we
a
can have a
difference.
flexible schedule, which is a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think scheduling with my son and my family aren't necessarily one of the reasons I decided to close.
It wasn't a primary reason for me, but in hindsight, it's the biggest reason that I've experienced.
That's good.
I mean, for me now, I just working from home and working on my own schedule. Yeah, I get to be. Plus, I have 3 times as many children as you do,
You do.
which
Complicates things.
sounds like a lot, but
Yeah.
it's only 3.
Yeah.
You have
Same
the
old
least
story.
amount of childs here.
I do.
Yeah, I do have the least
you do have
amount of
the least.
childs here.
He has 3 times.
But
Three
yeah,
times
trying
children.
to spread my time across, kids that are ranging from almost 18 to almost 9. Sorry.
You got
honey,
a lot
I
of
had to think- I had to
activities.
think about it. I've been drinking whiskey, so
You got a lot of activities
there's,
you're dealing
there's a
with
lot,
right now.
but
Can
yeah.
we pull up the comments real quick? We got a comment.
Oh, we got a comment.
We got a comment.
James is the man. This is our customer. I live in Vecchia, California, and our bike shop closed a week ago.
I know how that goes.
Um,
Me too.
Okay, so let's get to this, because actually this is kind of something I want to get to. But closing the shop and being able to be available for my family was not the priority at the time, but in hindsight, it's been the best thing for me.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a few other people since then who have either closed or sold their stores once their kids kind of got into lower elementary or whatever. They were like, oh, I need to be here
Yeah.
more. And bike shop demands on bike shop owners for their time is very high.
It's
Weekends. You're in the service industry.
yeah.
Well, and it's just
It's more than weekends. Like, it goes-
It's
I've-
it's through dinner every fucking night,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
sucks.
I mean,
And
I've
spent
stayed up
years
late
never
multiple.
going to dinner with my family.
I stayed up late till midnight, 1:00, writing up service orders.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out which of my vendors I needed to put what parts in the cart for this bike, so I could get the most margin and then hit free shipping. And then, like, if I accidentally missed a chain and I thought I had it in one part, but I
you missed
didn't,
shipping on it.
and then I
Yes.
I have everything but the chain show up, and like the dude has a ride to go. So like, I'd stay up so late so many times trying to like dial in my parts orders and have a situation where it was just like,
Yeah.
it just was a time suck.
Yeah, it's if somebody were asking me about opening a bike shop, one of the first questions I would ask them is, well, are you single, or do you have kids or plan on having kids? Because if you're free from all that, then maybe give it a go. If you have kids, don't do it.
I mean, there's
Don't even fucking come close to it.
Yeah.
If you have
There's
kids.
something to be said to getting off work at 5. Like,
There's a lot to be said
You
for
get out of work at 5.
Yeah, you get to walk away, and
And
it's
just walk
not
away.
your problem.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're the bike shop owner and the shop closes at 5 and you're going to send people away because if you keep them there to do all the extra stuff, you got to pay them to do it.
Yep.
Dude, finding
So you got to do it all yourself.
at the end of the day, just finding the parts. Like, you're like, okay, I wrote this ticket
Hours
up.
and hours.
I wrote 3 tickets up, and it was middle of summer, and I have to figure out, like, where am I getting that, and where this is coming from, and I have to get that, and, like, you get all those orders in and all that. There's all this time on the back end people don't see.
I love that this popped up because your wife has commented, and a mental suck.
And a mental suck.
Because the other people in our life are the ones who suffer when
Oh yeah.
we get drained.
Oh yeah.
Because of the time
I'm sorry about
and
that.
the effort. Yeah, no, it's. But it's because we're trying. We think that like if we put in enough effort for a little bit, it'll pay off later on.
Yeah.
Like I'll be able to take the time off. The shop will be able to run itself without me. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
And yeah, like
Or you have to pay
our
people a lot
partners
of money
and
to
our-
do it.
You either got to pay
and
people,
it's
yeah,
like-
and then our partners and our families, like they suffer, some of them unknowingly, the little ones,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't realize that we're not there when we're there.
Totally.
And
Totally.
it's fucking hard.
All wrapped up
Very
in the
true.
bike shop. So
Yeah, I'm gonna cry. Stop.
don't cry.
Um,
It's okay.
Spent so much time away.
But you're here now.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we do have
Yeah.
James in the comments saying he lives in California and their bike shop closed a week ago. I hope that this commenter can see a little bit behind the scenes with our episode tonight. And,
I bet they can.
And hope that,
I
like,
bet you can see.
it's not just like, oh, they failed or this or that. Like there's a lot that goes on.
Oh yeah.
On the other side of the counter, if you will, that result in a bike shop closing.
I mean, and like, I'm in this group on the Facebook webs that's a bike shop owners group. And one of the guys made an article about how, these are all the failed bike shops. And that offended me. Like, I'm actively choosing to close my bike shop so my bike shop doesn't fail. And so it doesn't affect
Failure
me
is
negatively.
it's such a bad word. 'Cause,
And like
yeah.
it pissed me off a lot because like my bike shop was super successful. I won so many awards. I could probably think about all of them if I like sat them down and write it out. But we won a lot of awards. We sold a lot of bikes. I helped a lot of people.
No, I was looking at your
And-
your Google reviews. 13 years, you're at 4.8.
Yeah,
Woo!
that's pretty good.
Fucking stellar.
We got a couple of bad ones.
That is
Here, let me put this up real quick.
that is That's a sterling record.
Look at that, 4.8.
That's a sterling record. Something to be proud of. Pretty sure higher than mine. I don't think I was for 7. I don't think I was.
No?
No, I don't know what mine was. Well,
That's okay.
you keep talking. I can find
I
out.
think if you're in the 4s, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
What was the? We were gonna chat about. Did you find some 1-star reviews?
Oh, yeah, there were some fun ones.
So one thing we want to cover is the 1-star reviews, because I've gotten some 1-star reviews that are just ridiculous, and people don't always see the rebuttal of the 1-star review.
Oh, yeah. And I always tried to...
Sorry, G&G Cycles for 7 years was at 4.7.
Oh, you beat him by one.
I beat him by 1.
I only had 67 reviews. Nobody reviewed us.
You know,
Why
and it's a
didn't people
struggle.
review us?
I asked so many people to review us, and some people would, and some people were like, I'll do it, and they never did, and it's just like, oh, come on, like, it helps. So, yeah, let's bring up my 1-star reviews. Let's talk about
where are
those.
we at? All right, we'll
Those
hit
were
those real
always
quick.
fun.
Let's scroll up.
You pick.
J. Oliver.
Oh, you're gonna call people out by name?
I mean, anybody could go to my Google reviews page
right.
and see it. So,
So we have your response. I would love to know if you remember this review.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
This customer says, "Rude attitudes, messy shop. There are many other bike shops that understand
Now,
their
was
customers."
the shop messy?
yeah, I just got a big order in.
This was 4 months ago.
Yeah, so like I was closing. I had a big order of parts, and I was servicing. I had like 6 bikes in the stand at the time, and yeah, it was messy because I knew I was closing. I didn't really care about cleaning some of that stuff that much. I mean, the dude was a wreck coming in. And I don't know. I could read my response, or you could read my response. I'd like
John,
to hear you.
You were clearly inebriated when you came into our business, and that was apparent by the Bud Ice that you were drinking in my shop. Yes, our shop is currently a bit messy as we spend a majority of our time fixing bicycles for customers. The pile of parts you're probably referring to is about to be taken as a donation to a nonprofit that helps kids with lower economical means get on bikes. As for the attitude, even though you spent most of your time in my shop insulting me and talking down to me, I never once yelled, unlike you. Your behavior is not acceptable in our family bike shop. You got angry that we sell products at MSRP, specifically inner tubes.
This dude wanted me to sell him an inner tube for $4.
What did it cost you?
$4.50.
$4.05.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. The price of inner tubes, in addition to every other item, has increased due to many factors. Every bike shop in the state, and many others, sell tubes for the same price as I do. Some for even more. Those kind of fucking dicks.
It's a true story.
I sell products at the prices the manufacturers set. We have little margins in our industry, and whatever money I make goes towards supplying medicine. Medicine?
Medicine.
Oh, that's not covered by insurance for my disabled son. Yeah, which is true.
It's true.
Yeah. You also sent some very offensive messages telling me to go die, and that was a recommendation and not a threat. I mean, it's fair. It's fair.
I recommend you.
I would prefer you died by some other means than my hand. Yes. I will be contacting the EDP, whatever the fuck that is.
What's the EDP?
The EPD, the Inglewood Police Department.
Oh.
Yeah, I reported the dude to the cops because he told me to go die, but like I said, or he said it was a recommendation, not a threat. But that, I mean, if I were like, hey, go die, but like that's more of a threat than a recommend. A recommendation is like, hey, tie your shoes. Like, drink water so you're hydrated.
So one thing working at the shops, like in the last couple of years, I help out at a couple different shops, is, man, it's rough. It's gotten rough out there.
Yeah.
One of the shops I work at, they're literally, a tent village goes up overnight. Then when the tent village comes down, there is an array of needles.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to deal with going into work, coming out of work, and then people coming into the shop that you're like I literally am like, I'm a 6'1" man, and I'm like, dude, am I gonna get jacked at the shop? Like, the shop I worked at is a single person deal, and like, there are many times where I was holding a pedal wrench, like a big wrench, just like, is this guy gonna attack me?
Yeah.
How pretentious of you.
I mean, the last
so elitist.
the last
If
2
only
days.
he'd been riding a Pinarello, he wouldn't have been holding a
I'm
pedal
like,
wrench.
please, a Pinarello needs to come in right now. Please, God.
The last 2 days at my shop, 4 people were in my alley by the dumpster, smoking fentanyl, and it's like.
Well, I mean,
Dude,
you
it's like, you
were
gotta leave.
you were in that hood of Englehood, outside of Denver. Very well known nationwide for its horrible crime.
Englehood or Engleweird, whatever you want to
Englewood's
call
a
it.
very, very normal suburb. Is it a suburb?
So,
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
a
suburb.
municipality that borders Denver, and where your shop was like just down the street from some really nice restaurants in a really nice walking area of Denver.
Yeah, like 3 blocks from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't.
Yeah.
You weren't in You were, but you weren't in Fentanyl Central.
Exactly.
But
Like the fentanyl that they got at your place, they could easily get on the train, whereas in Denver it's a little bit easier.
I moved to Denver in 2009 and rode Platte River. Like, I pretty much rode every day to work.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw people shooting up in public. I
Yeah.
never saw it for years.
Right, a long time.
Up until the teens. And then I started seeing, I worked at B-Cycle, so the public bike share program. Then, it was probably 2016-ish that you start seeing people passed out with needles in their arms on the Platte River. So this is something that's happened over the last 10 years where you start seeing this, and those people also come into your bike shop. You have to deal with it.
Yep,
It's hard.
absolutely.
And dude, it's scary sometimes. You're like, is this guy gonna attack me? Is this guy gonna start stealing stuff off my wall?
I had multiple people threaten to kill me. I had one dude ask to use my bathroom, and then he smoked meth in my bathroom. So for a while, we
I
had
was told I had the devil inside of me because I have red hair.
Yeah.
I don't think they were high. I think they were
They were
totally
just
reasonable.
serious.
I think they were serious.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we can talk for hours about hard drug use and what Denver has turned into, and the economy ropes into that too. And I mean, ultimately, as a small business owner, all of these reasons were one of the things I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to put my life at risk because some dude's
That's the fact
smoking
of the
meth
matter
in my
is
bathroom.
you're the one who has to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have opinions about cause and treatment and solutions. We can talk about all that. You can have opinions and
Now, did you ever call
agree
the
to disagree.
police?
I had a few times.
But
Yeah,
the reality
I did.
is, you as the business owner, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I heard about. I had a friend once who had some people running a sex thing outside the back of his shop. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, that
anything-
was me.
Oh,
Yeah, that was me. At one point, so in our alley, a pimp, a prostitute, and 4 Johns were
I
back
really
there.
wanted everyone to
Wait, is
know.
this
And-
the beginning of a joke?
No, this is this is my real life that
A
happened.
prostitute and John outside of it.
And they
behind
moved
a
the
bike shop.
dumpster back from the fence, and they put a blanket up on each side.
Sounds
and-
considerate, if you ask me.
And a bed on a mattress on the ground.
Say mattress. I don't
and-
think bed's quite. I don't think any.
All right,
sleeping
there was
happened.
no sleeping there. And
Insulated from the ground.
so one of my neighbors, who's also
cushion.
one of my one of my old neighbors, who was also one of my old customers, she called me up, and she was like, "Hey Zach, this is your neighbor. How are you today? Oh yeah, have you been in the alley yet?" No, what's going on? She's like, I think there's a pimp and a prostitute and some guys back there. I've asked them to leave and they told me to fuck off. Do you think you could go back there? Because you're a big intimidating guy. And so I go back there and I'm like, hey, you need to leave now. And the pimp is like, no. I'm like, look, like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, y'all want to do this, fine. But you're on private property. You can't do it here. So leave. And the guy's like, no. I'm like, all right. I have the Inglewood Police Department sergeant's cell phone number. I will call him. They are 2 minutes away. They will be here in 2 minutes. And finally, when I said that and I pulled out my phone, they started leaving. And they left their bed and they left their mattress and the blankets. I'm like, all right, I guess I get to clean this up. And so I put 3 layers of gloves on. And I dragged the mattress to one dumpster far down the alley, and I, spread the blankets out in a couple of others.
See, the problem is you didn't he didn't ask to get cut in.
I don't even want any of that cut. I just
cut in, dude.
You could have got a cut.
I mean, so the thing is, with being on Broadway,
Terrible entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's just trying to be an
You
entrepreneur.
need to learn to diversify your portfolio a
yeah.
little bit. It's
I
hard
mean-
to say portfolio when you
Cricket
freaking
cell
whiskey.
phones.
right?
Mint Mobile, and
Prostitution.
Done.
I mean, the thing is, like,
That's how
I'm
you
right
sell.
on Broadway. If kids came in to test ride a bike, I'd have them go into my alley. So ultimately, like, the alley had to be clear of drug users and prostitutes. And so,
So,
Man,
the
so
only
how
place-
elitist of you, Zach.
terrible.
So pretentious.
Terrible.
If only those prostitutes were on Pinarellos.
I think the tough thing too
That'd be
is
a funny thing to see.
when we bought a house on Colfax and Spruce,
Okay.
and that's the other side of town, which is rough. And we would go out in the alley, and that's the only place I could take my son to safely go ride.
Yeah.
Is the alley. Liquor store was at the end of the alley.
Ooh.
That was the daily in and out. And after dealing with that for a year, like your empathy starts to come down really quick. Like
100%.
You do not like maybe this person's had a rough time. You're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yup.
Like
Yup.
I'm done.
It goes from kindness to like fuck off real quick.
And I had a couple close calls where I was like, just trying to be polite and human to another person. I'm like, hey, can you please, like, dude, you can't do that here. Come on. Like, I got kids, we got families living all up in here. And dude, I had the last time I actually tried to talk to somebody, the guy reached back and dude, I had this moment where like he's gonna hit me. Like, dude, he's gonna hit me. And he reached in and pulled out a drill he was trying to sell me. Like, in the alley.
That
he's
turns into
like,
an opportunity so quickly.
and it was
man.
Like, it was the type of situation where like, the guy was doing this, like he was like, picking and itching and stuff. And
Did you buy the drill?
I almost did, dude, but you know what?
Ryobi.
It was dude, it was Ryobi. I was like, dude, it's not worth it. I can get that $25, dude.
But wait until Christmas, they're gonna have a deal.
Literally.
Yeah.
But the way he moved, I was like, dude, he's gonna hit me. He's
Yeah.
gonna hit. And I was like, after that, like I got a little bit more cautious dealing with the alley folks.
Yeah. Oh, the alley folks.
Yeah.
This is sort of what we've hit on here and there. Is like, I feel like bike shops and bike employees, they get kind of shit on a lot for being elitist or pretentious or only wanting to work on fancy this but like the reality is, especially if you're in a retail setting or a public facing setting, you're dealing with people like at their base level all the time, right? You're not dealing with them through a computer, you know. You're not dealing with them sort of in abstract. You're dealing with them specifically, whether it's and personally, and whether it's the people that are in the alley. You have to deal with that because you're dealing not just with those people, but you're dealing, like you said, with the people who you want to send on a bike ride, who you want to experience the joy and the freedom and the happiness that bike riding brings.
Absolutely.
Right. And this person and this crew of people who are doing this in the alley, they're obstructing like your goal, your hope, and your joy. You know what you want
Yeah.
for other people. So that's why when a bike shop closes and everyone wants to shout failure and or quit or this or that, there's so much going on. Or that when the accusations of being pretentious or dismissive get kind of lobbed against you, it's like you're dealing like with specific people in specific instances every day, all day long, and none of it's like, it's not made up, it's not abstract, and it's not just like over the internet, you know.
No, it's
And
it's
that's
real
why
life, and it can be dangerous.
well,
you
it can be
know?
dangerous, and it just for me it makes the whole experience like so much like in a sense more real. Because it's real people, real moments, real scenarios, and we're dealing with it all the time. And I guess all I'm saying is, I feel like we don't get the respect that we deserve.
No, we
Which
fought
is-
the hard fight.
which I think is true.
we
but
we
this is
put
the
our
point.
we put ourselves on the line to live this dream as a bike shop owner,
Yeah,
and we did it. And then we actively chose to close it when it was time to actively close it.
yeah,
And so I don't like the word failure for it, because
Yeah.
that's absolutely not
agreed.
what happened.
Failure's not the right word. We're not the ones that failed. Society failed. Come on, man.
Well, I think our industry failed us too, man. I truthfully do. Like, you shouldn't be able to find these parts online for cheaper than we can find them.
You shouldn't be able to buy the same thing from the company directly and get
Exactly.
free shipping when the dealer has to get a $500 minimum order just to get free shipping.
Yep, absolutely.
Free shipping is, we were talking about this the other day, it's this thing
Tangent
left over.
coming up.
It's
Oh,
this thing that's left over. So to entice people to buy online, years ago, they're like, we'll do free shipping.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what's going to happen, and it started finally to happen, is Amazon starting to pull back. You don't get free shipping right away, or you don't get 2-day shipping.
Right.
Or you have to select it. And guess what? It's going to get even worse.
Yep.
As more people buy into that, Prime, they're going to start pulling it back. Like, oh, you don't get 2-hour delivery,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. 2-hour free delivery.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Because you paid $80 last.
Yeah, like somebody is
November.
bringing it directly
Yeah.
to you. Free shipping, even though like we all use it, it's a little ridiculous. On one hand, a consumer can go buy something and get free shipping. Most of the time, it's built into the price. But as a shop, you have to spend $500 to even start to get that deal.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
It's dumb.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Well, we're about to wrap up because it's
But
9:50. We are late
We're
tonight.
late. We
Holy
went going.
shit. All
gotta
right.
say,
Fire round.
Let's
yes
do it.
and no. Do you still ride bikes?
Yes.
Oh, great. Awesome. Are bike shops still necessary?
I think so. Yeah.
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 All right. These aren't yes and no. But why do so many bike shops not make it?
I think.
You get one answer.
I mean, I think it's like a two-part situation.
Oh, you're
No, it's easy.
All
It's
right.
like
I'll allow a
either
two-parter.
either the person who bought the bike shop had no idea how to run a bike shop, or the corporations in the bike industry are making it really difficult for bike shops to do what the bike shops need to do. I think it's either or, because I've heard a lot of people I've heard of a lot of shops who, like, some dude just came in and was like, I should run a bike shop, and then they buy the bike shop, and like maybe they were in tech, or maybe they were in like roofing or whatever, and then they had no idea what it takes to run a bike shop.
the corporate takeover.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's end it with this because I think this is good. What's next for you?
Oh yeah, I like my next chapter. I'm going to be a fly fishing guide.
That's fucking good.
I'm going to work with a couple of pretty cool outfitters around town and help people catch really big fish. I like
And
catching big
maybe
fish.
use some bikes in the process.
Yeah, so one of the shops I'm going to guide with we're going to start doing some bike fishing trips. So we've got permits on Boulder Creek and Clear Creek, which happen to be right next to bike trails. So we're going to start either at the top or the bottom, depending on if you want to ride uphill first or uphill after. And we're going to load our fishing gear and up on bikes and pedal up and catch some fish and then ride back down. So,
Well, Zach, thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule right now.
I got some time. It's kind of weird.
You have the time.
Yeah, it's
thank you
crazy.
for your time, but thank you for your insight, your honesty. Thank you for your service to Denver for many years.
Thank you.
You've
I
helped a lot of
appreciate it.
people ride bikes.
I
And that's
appreciate
fucking
that.
Great. That's, there's people who will keep riding bikes because of the work you did, and you'll never know about it, but it's out there. And
I'll
that's
see him
awesome.
around, just
So,
like you see him around. So
that's great.
thank you,
thank you.
gentlemen, for inviting me.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah.
We know this one went long, but this was a fun conversation. I had a good time.
A lot of
Thank you.
things to talk about. So,
All right.
yeah.
Till next
We
week.
out. We don't
Toodles.
know what next week is yet, but it'll be good. It'll be salacious.
It'll be salacious. And also check out last week's episode where we talked about bike-shaped objects. In the future, we're looking to do some action with 1-star reviews.
Ooh.
1-star reviews.
1-star reviews
So
are our favorites.
look forward to that. If you are a bike mechanic who's gotten a 1-star review, and you'd like to talk about it on the show, let us know. Shoot us a comment. We'll chat if you're in the Denver area.
We'll connect.
Actually, and if you're not in the Denver area, you could record something and send it to us. Let's talk.
We love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
we'll see you.
Thanks.
And good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
And stream is ended.
Dunzo.